Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. It's 8:17 a.m. And Tony Robbins does this fun little thing at Date with Destiny where he busts out like all these clocks. It's like 8:07 a.m. Something magical is going to happen. You're going to do something. 8:07, 8:07. It's like kind of a thing. And only if you've been to this one particular event that Tony puts on would you even get the joke and remember in like that one instance. But it is like, what are you doing like in the moment, right? And I look at where I've already been this morning. I've already got up. I was running a little late, but I got to the gym a little after 5. I did my meditation. I went into the sauna. I went and did the cold plunge. I got a little bit of movement in. I got my Monday morning weigh in. But I was kind of like surprised. I got to be honest. I was surprised that like the gym was not packed. After the first of the year, it's like, oh, my new year, I'm going to be at the gym. Wasn't packed on the first. Well, I got there. I was there on the first, wasn't packed on the second, wasn't packed on the third. I'm like, well, maybe everybody's New Year starts today. Maybe that's today. Well, forget it. We're going to recover over the last few days and then start on Monday. They say 80% of people like fire themselves back up to start on Mondays, but then by the end of the week they peter out. I was like, oh, we'll see. Nobody. It was still like a ghost town, and I'm like, well, maybe this isn't LA. I don't know. But it was really amazing to me. And this is where it really boils down to like it's already the second week of the year. And I've done a lot of things already this year, a couple of them that are on my bucket list. One that I have yet to announce publicly, but I am talking about it in my private community. My private community, the Zen Club, is getting a facelift this year. I'm very excited about that. So we just did our theta healing meditation in that group every Monday at 7:30 a.m. Well, most Mondays at 7:30 a.m. I do a theta healing meditation, and it's private to the people that are in the group. And it's a powerful thing to do, to go up to the seventh plane and download and get these downloads. They talk about like where your beliefs come from and what influences your thoughts and actions. And it's really from your BS, your belief systems, right? Like what you believe is what you think, is what you say, is what you do, is what you achieve. Your beliefs, get your action. If you believe you can, she believed she could, so she did, right? But what are those little things? And that was one of the things that we did in the downloads, little sneaky peek, is like we talked about the self-confidence formula. And the other thing I'm going to be doing, I'm decided if I'm going to do that like for everybody, but I'm certainly going to be doing it for my community, is like this thing that could like hold up the short leg of the couch, this book right here. I've read it in its entirety, but it's been a long time. And I've read its shortened version, its shorter cousin, which a lot of you may have heard of, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Well, this is the law of success. And this thing, I swear, you could like, I don't need a gym if I have this guy, but I'm going to be reading several pages from this every week and getting through this. It's 710 pages. It's 15 or 16 chapters, depending on your edition. But every week we're going to be going through and reading that inside my community. So it's a great contribution community. It's really low ticket. If you want to come and see me in person, that's a little bit different ticket, but it's definitely a lot deeper. And again, that's kind of an invitation only thing. I do have my mastermind coming up at the end of the month, and I'm excited for that. But really want to dive into, there's my little 30-second commercial, but really want to dive into like, what are the little things that you're not doing? What are the things that you're missing? You're missing those little things, those death by 1,000 cuts. I say, if you've ever heard of like death by 1,000 cuts, it's those little tiny paper cuts that cover basically your whole body, right? It's a thing. It's like a torture that people go through, right? And for me, not so much. I'm like, what are the little things that keep me from getting that death by 1,000 cuts? It was like that last bite of cake. Don't do it. It's these little micro habits that actually formulate our whole day. And it's, when you start having the discipline in those little moments to not have the last bite of cake, after a while, you're going to be like, maybe I shouldn't have the first one. Right. And when you do make those decisions, Like, that was my meditation this morning. It was like, when I make a decision to do something, it is with discipline and intention. And that word, I don't know about you, but the word discipline to me was something really awful. Like, my dad, when he said the word discipline, it usually involved some kind of punishment. Right. And for my brothers, it was more of a corporal punishment. And for me, it was less so, but it was still like something negative. So I never really, for the longest time, had a positive definition of the word discipline. And I was like, well, just, then fine, screw you. I'm going to do what I want. Because what would happen was, and I was talking to a friend of mine about this the other day. It was like, she's the kind of person and she's a Trace persona. So this is typical. And I'm a Bella persona. So this is also typical. But when you have it as your reinforced behavior, like my father is also a Trace. And, anybody that has a dad has dad issues. I don't care who you are. You got a great dad, you still got an issue in there somewhere, even, no matter what it looks like. But for me, it was, she said, I, in order for me to get the cookie or the cake, I had to do the things and the stuff, the task first, then the reward. And I was like, well, that never worked out for me, because what happened in my world was, oh my God, gets me so emotional. If this resonates with you, like, then you need me. Like, you need this conversation. Like, well, what happened was, I would get a task and I would say, if I could get the task done, then I would get the reward. Right. Okay. So I would get excited and I would do the task, and I would have an hour to do the task and I would finish it in 3 minutes. When I have 57 minutes between then and the reward. Right. So one of a few things would happen. Either I would get bored and screw it up. I wouldn't want to wait for the reward. And what would more often than not happen is people would say, well, you have 57 more minutes, go do something else. And I'm like, what the frick? What do you mean do something else? I thought this is what I had to do. And then I get the reward. Like, no, we got to fill that 57 minutes with work. So you know what I would do? Guess what that would teach me? I can do this task in 3 minutes. I'm going to ding dong around for 57 minutes because I don't want to be tasked to do more work to get the same freaking reward. So I would putz around or curl my hair, or I don't know, play Barbies. I don't think I did that, but I did something, right? And then in the last 3 minutes, I would do it. And then maybe I would get the reward. More often than not, I wouldn't get the reward either. Right. I remember one time I called my grandmother. She was my dad's mom. Like, this is where, you wonder where my dad gets it. Well, Grandma Burris, she would say, oh, we're going to go to Splash Mountain or Disney World or whatever it was, whatever the reward was. And it would, I would go out there and I would do the task and everything. And then guess what? No Splash Mountain, no Disney World. I never forget. Like, there was a time, here's a stupid story. Never a time. My grandmother said there's a bunch of pine cones in her backyard. And she said, I'll give you a quarter per pine cone. And I'm doing some math in my head. I'm like, damn, 4 pine cones for $1? Okay. Well, she didn't realize what she had said. Like, she didn't realize who she was dealing with. So I'm out there like a ninja. And I'm like, trash bags, hundreds of pine cones. And I was counting them. And I'd come in there with trash bags, all cleaned up all the pine cones. I probably had $200 worth of pine cones. I like thousands of pine cones. I spent all day picking those things up. I came back in there. She was like, oh, gosh, I didn't realize you were like this massive overachiever, right? 25 cents a pine cone. Okay, I picked up 1,000 pine cones. That's how much, we'll do the math. That's $250. Guess what I got? $5, right? Got $5. Guess what I was reinforced for? I was not rewarded for picking up the pine cones. This is a great conversation. And Alex Hormozi, if you're watching, this is where you shared this in one of your, yeah, you're prolific. I can't remember which video it was. I watch you all the time, but it like me, I'm always on. But you were talking about rewarding versus reinforcement. And what we get reinforced for, because there is something called, in behavior land, there's something called negative reinforcement and positive punishment. It isn't always about the carrot. Sometimes it's about the stick or the lack of stick, or it's a labyrinthian way of approaching it, right? So for me, I just got that $5 wasn't worth it. That was not worth the reward. So I got reinforced to procrastinate. My whole life, I've been reinforced for procrastination, more often than not, unknowingly by my parents. Right? I told my mom, like, maybe like a year ago, I'm 51. Here's my mom telling my mom how to parent. I'm like, mom, all those times that she said, you were always running late. You always made me late for work. I'm like, I didn't do any shit, mom. I didn't do any of that. You made yourself late for work by not holding a boundary about the fact that I was ding donging around because you had reinforced me for ding donging around for years. And like just yelling and nagging, and kind of how you do the little things is how you do everything else. Everything else. And I told her, I said, listen, if I were you, I would have gotten, knowing me, I'm a Bella persona. If you don't know what persona you are, just reach out to me. I'll tell you in 10 seconds which one you are. Pretty good at this nonsense after 20 years of doing it. And it came up as like, if you had said, now gone to the principal or whatever, because I graduated like top of my class, top 5%, and I had a class of over 300 kids and stuff. So I was a pretty smart chick, and I was like really wanted to go to college. And my big thing was I was afraid of getting in trouble and something landing on my permanent record, right? So if I was my mom and if I was clever and I was tired of my kid making me late for work, I would call up the principal and say, hey, we need to do a little scare thing for my daughter. She's making me nuts. Like throw her into it was called OKIS, OKIS, Operation Keep in School. And it was like where like the derelicts went. Like that would have been mortifying for me to have ended up in my brother ended up there all the time. But for me, like I was like right. I just like, listen, don't put this on her permanent record. She just needs to learn a little lesson on timeliness. And there'd have been other creative ways to do it, but there needed to be a consequence to that little cut, to that little like making my mom nuts for, I said one time you'd have left me at the house and in fear of going to OKIS or like an actual consequence that hit me. I'd never done it again. And it's funny because again, here we go. I'm your biggest fan right now. I was listening to him and Chris Williamson. I love Chris too. And they were talking about the beta paradox. And it's like sometimes the pain has to be enough for you to actually take action. Like, you'll stay in the apartment that has mold and, cockroaches because the rent's cheap and it's not, and it's close to Whole Foods, which is a paradox in and of itself, how a cockroach and moldy apartment next to a Whole Foods. But here we are. But it's like how it has to be bad enough. The nail has to be painful enough for you to take that action. And that's why these little tiny decisions, like what you do every single day, it's like how you do the little things is how you do everything else. Like really nailing that down. Because the reason we don't, we don't care about eating McDonald's every day for 10 years is because the first 2 years, it's, you just gain a few pounds. If every time you ate McDonald's, somebody cut your finger off, you'd be like, oh, hell with that. No more. I'm not going to be able to hold a burger. Right. So you got to like really take that into consideration. Like what are your standards, honestly, when it comes down to these little tiny habits? And I love the book Atomic Habits because it makes me think of like down to the size of the atom. Like what atomically at that level, at a cellular level, at this one grain of sand in the oyster, like how big does a pearl have to get before you actually gain wisdom? They'd call them pearls of wisdom for a reason, right? Because this grain of sand is implanted and it takes time to build up like something that's valuable, right? That you actually get. And people don't go and take the pearl out of the oyster. And God forbid, the oyster, I don't know, can the oyster actually spit out a pearl? I don't know, but the bigger the pearl, the bigger the pain, the longer it takes. They call it mother of pearl, the bigger the wisdom. And that's just it. And I come back to it though. I want little tiny pearls for my own pain point, my own pain threshold. For those of you that know me well, you guys know that I have a level of resilience and tolerance for pain like that is like David Goggins worthy, not from the physical, running 800 miles or, she does some ungodly things to his body. And, I do too, to a certain degree with, 5 horses and a little mini that I'm working with now. And, just out there all the time. But really like on the day to day, like that resiliency. And it comes down to, what type of pain are you willing to and capable of um, persevering through and having resilience for. And I'm always going around saying, guys, I want to lower your tolerance for pain, lower it. Right. Now, that doesn't mean that you're not resilient and you don't come back from, come from behind or, do that, make a comeback or any of that. But choose your pain and choose your hard. They say choose your hard. I say choose your easy, because it's the same side of the, what is it? The other side of the same coin. That's what you really need to think about. Is like, what is it that's going to raise your standards and lower your tolerance for pain, meanwhile enhancing your resiliency and your discernment over what you engage with. Really, it's your BS meter, right? And that comes from your beliefs. And it also comes from your level of tolerance for BS. And I say BS intentionally. That's the bullshit. We want to make sure we get rid of that. Like I'm not going to tolerate Kayla, my friend Kayla, who comes out here and helps me the peach. She's like, I can't tolerate small talk. And I'm like, me either. It takes away from my bandwidth. So if we're not engaged, somebody that's on one of my lives or somebody that's in my private community or my Xenogen group or something, or or helping, or helping a horse or helping somebody else. Like if it's not in alignment with that, boo. You get about maybe 30 seconds, and that's only if I like you. After that, I'm like, nope, this is not how I do this. And I'm not coming off harsh or rude or arrogant or, a snob or any of that. I just have discernment because it's those little things that eat up your day. They eat up your time. They eat up your minutes. That eat up your mindset. They eat up your willpower. Like that's a key piece. And I'll tell you one thing, anything that takes me away from being out with those guys, I'm pointing outside because I can see Tuesday here from my window. Anybody that pulls me away from that, like you better have something to say. Because that's really important to me. That's where I feel like I'm in my zone. I love being around them. I love helping, what is your thing that you need to have more discernment around and a little less tolerance of, right? Want to know more about that? We've got some cool stuff. I'm going to be reading this. Damn, who needs a gym? You got this guy like hanging around. But join me. I'll put the link in. We're going to be doing a facelift on it this year. I'm very excited. Name change, rebrand, like the whole thing. A complete upgrade for 2026. It's called the Zen Club currently, but it's time for an upgrade. I've been wanting to pull this together, and it's coming together so beautifully to where it has, really something of value to provide. And not just another video, not just another like, hey, talking head. This is like stuff that's important to people like you. So if you follow me or watch this or, love horses, like what we're looking for, if you're a woman that's an executive or in a professional and like you're killing it in the business world and you want better relationships professionally and personally, you may be making a lot of money and doing well, but sometimes that's like, God, the grind is like, forget it. And that's why I say, let's lower your tolerance for pain and get your professional polish up so you can pull that into your personal life too. A lot of people that are successfully professionally are not personally. Their husbands or their partners or their kids. My mom, same, perfect example. She's great at her job, loved what she did. Everybody loved her at work, but she could not get her kid to get up, be on time for school. That's a problem because it taught me to procrastinate. Thanks, mom. Sorry, mom, but it's the truth. So where have you been reinforced in these little micro things? Doom scrolling is a big one. The technology driven dopamine hits that like those are huge. So make sure whatever you're doing, whatever you're consuming, and whatever you're doing throughout the day. Like I have my bullet journal. Where's my bullet journal? I just got a new journal. And I've been doing it for years. It's called bullet journaling. Here's the cover. Bullet journal. Like that really kind of helps me keep me in alignment for what I'm going and how I'm flowing throughout my days. And I'm like, okay, am I still on track? Am I still on track? Just like a pilot flying an airplane, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, put it on autopilot for a while, but you can't have it on autopilot all the time. Yeah, and you still have to check it from time to time, right? Autopilot's like letting your team run the show while you go on vacation, right? You still have to check in from time to time if you're still flying the plane, right? And if you're in the business world, you're flying the plane. Trust me, you're flying the plane. Otherwise the monkeys start running the zoo, you get reinforced for the wrong thing. And the next thing you know, you're like, I ain't ever picking up a pine cone for Grandma Burris ever again. Yeah. Like I had some choice words for that. I was so not happy that day. It just de-incentivized me. Like, what do you follow through with your word, guys? If you have kids and you promise them 25 cents a pine cone and you realize you did bad math, eat it. Because you just teach your kids like that was a terrible lesson. Don't trust it. You know what I got from that? Don't work hard. Don't trust adults. Grandma Burris is a liar. Like they're all, and I take that, you take it to heart when you're, 6, 7 years old. Interesting stuff, guys. Staying tuned. I'll be going live throughout the week. Lots going on inside my community, and my mastermind's coming up July. Probably have one in July too. But my next one is January 28th. It's a small group, and it's high-end discussions around these types of topics, and it will definitely change your life. Because when you look at it through the eyes of a horse, it will hit you at your soul level. So I hope this was powerful for you. Have an amazing first day of the second week of the year. Can you believe we're already into week 2, 2026? And make sure you rock this week. All right, talk soon, and hope to see you on the next one.